Hello, good evening, and welcome to the LFC Daytrippers, brought to you by bookmakers.com. It is, the branding says midweek fix, but I'm pretty sure it's still a Monday, and it's not quite a full-time Reds, but we're going to talk about our preseason game today. I'm your host, Matt, joined by Kev O'Sullivan. Kev, this is like preseason for us, getting back into the groove of things for the full-time Reds season coming up ahead of us.
Yeah, the difference is today I had absolutely no interest in watching this game until I got home from work. If this was a 12:30 kickoff and it was a league game and I had to work, I'd be making arrangements at about 12:25 to find a quiet spot in work somewhere to flick it on my telly or get it on my phone and watch it. For love and money, I'd have found a way. Today it was like I was just keeping an eye on Telegram, seeing what was happening, and it was preseason. It was the last game of preseason before they fly home, so is what it is. I take it for what it is. I can't look too deep into it, but take the positives where you find them. The negatives are the ones that you want to, you just want them to happen in this kind of a game, but you want them to be left there. You don't want them to be coming back with you. So look, if you're going to have a performance like that in the second half, have it there, And I'm not too bothered either way with it.
Yeah, it was. It worked out pretty well for me. I mean, the match started at 7 a.m. my time, so I got to watch the important part, which I think we can all agree was the first half. Then I went to work, and I had the game on in the background, and the goals were kind of flying in. But got home after work and rewatched the entire second half, and realized, with the exception of the 7 goals, didn't miss a whole heck of a lot. But I think there's points worth talking about, especially from that first half. So, the match finished 4-4. The first half was 1-0. The starting lineup in the first half, let's see if I can remember it. Allison came back in goal, which is good to see because he had missed the Karlsruhe game. Connor Bradley, Andy Robertson at the fullbacks, Ibu Konate, Virgil van Dijk, Trent playing in the 6 again. In front of Trent in the 2 8s was Cody Gakpo on the left, McAllister on the right, and then a front 3 of Diaz, Jota, and Ben Doak getting a run out with the first team. Yeah, that's a juicy lineup,
Yeah. There was 3 players in there, and you look at, okay, show me something in those positions. Connor Bradley, Ben Doak, Cody Gakpo in the 8. Now, the thing is, if anyone watched the World Cup, watched Holland playing in the World Cup, Gakpo played that role. That was pretty much his spot. Dropping deep on the left in a 5-3-2, but he was like tucking into midfield and being that kind of dictator of play from there. And I think it's a string to his bow that's going to get utilized throughout the season quite a bit. Cody Gakpo could be one of these players that could be it could be his downfall in some ways. He's very good in a lot of places. Mm-hmm. He can play the 9, no doubt about it. He can play that left-sided 8 role, no doubt about it. He can play on the left wing, no doubt about it. The temptation is to float him between all 3 spots, and whether you get the best out of him doing that, I don't know. It's definitely it's a nice problem to have, but at the same time, I don't expect, depending on the business that we do, I don't expect him to have to do it often, but to have him have that ability to do it in game, even if you want to change it in game, that you can swap systems into dropping him deeper, and you feel absolutely safe in the knowledge that he can do the job, no problem at all. Trent was fine in the 6, no extravagance in some of his passing. A lot of the play went through him, but he was neat and tidy with it. McAllister looks a fucking player, doesn't he? He looks absolutely brilliant.
Well, the question here's about, because you brought up McAllister and you're talking about Gakpo in the 8. What surprised me in the 2 preseason games, now I get in the first one because we were so light on midfielders, with Elliott and Jones still being away for the Karlsruhe game, we were just sorely lacking for body. So I understood why Gakpo slotted in there. But we saw at the tail end of last season, Gakpo played, I can't remember which game it was, where he played as the right-sided 8.
Yeah.
And when we signed McAllister, we all were of the opinion that that's the left-sided 8. Well, this is 2 preseason games in a row now, and McAllister has been unquestionably the right side.
Yeah,
and when I saw the starting lineup, I thought they might be flipped to what they actually ended up being. So, does that surprise you, seeing that McAllister's taken up that right-sided role?
Not at all, because when he signed, that's where I assumed he'd be playing. I assumed he'd be taking on the head, because this was before Dominic Szoboszlai became a thing. Mm-hmm. I assumed that McAllister was going to be taking the role that Jordan Henderson wouldn't be playing anymore, because Jordan Henderson can't do the role anymore in the way that we need that 8 to work. He just can't do it. So I assumed that McAllister would be playing on the right. Then you add Dominic Szoboszlai into the equation, and you have to look at it, I suppose. The odds are, but they're not going to all start all the time. It's the one probably position on the pitch that Klopp had a tendency to rotate the most, was in midfield. Right the way through his tenure, when the games started coming between league, Europe, domestic cups, back to league, and what have you, midfield was the one, because that's the one that has the most legs to get around. That's the one that you need to keep it fresh. And I don't know how many times you're going to see our best midfield playing back-to-back games. So I think out of what you'd expect to have 4 number 8s at the club at the minute, with McAllister, Szoboszlai, Elliott, Jones, you can throw Thiago into the mix. I expect those 4 to be rotated around fairly healthily, but I think McAllister would be the mainstay in all of it, because Szoboszlai is going to take time to bed into the league. Every player who comes into the Premier League, it's very rare that you get a player who comes into the league and is just dropped in there and play week after week after week. It usually does take a bit of time that you're in the rotation almost.
Yeah.
And I've no problem with that, because with Size getting 5 subs now, most central midfield 3s don't play 90 minutes. You'll usually change 2 of the 3 in games. So at most, you're going to get 70 minutes. So if you've got 5 to rotate into 3 spots, 1 of the starting 3 might play 90, but you're going to sub the other 2 out. And that's going to happen in roles reverse, where the 2 subs would start the next game, and then they'll play 70 minutes, and and they'll be subbed off. So it's about getting the balance right, and knowing that you can trust McAllister to come in and play on the right and on the left. You can trust Gakpo to drop into the 8 if need be. And Szoboszlai will fit into that, seamlessly. I think he's a quality player. And anytime I've watched a lot of him when I've been whenever I've seen him playing, it's mainly playing for Hungary that I've seen him play. And he's the main man. He plays off a striker, and everything goes through him. And at his age, he's going to be an absolute superstar, but he doesn't need to hit the ground running straight away. There is time to bed him in, and we have the luxury at the minute of having players around that can come in and, as we see, fit seamlessly into how you want to play.
Yeah, a player like Harvey Elliott already has the trust of Jurgen Klopp. We've seen that with the run of games that he got last season and the season before he picked up that injury. So, yeah, it's he's not necessary to hit the ground running, absolutely, but I just think Alexis McAllister is like, he hasn't shone, he hasn't had these big moments in these 2 preseason games where he's been the guy setting up the goal. I think he actually did set up the 1 goal for
the last one,
or Gakpo. Yeah, in the first
last
game.
one for Jota. Yeah,
it wasn't one of those like, oh wow, look at that, and it's getting clipped up and thrown everywhere sort of thing, but just he's consistent. He's in the right positions. He's getting forward. Like, he's getting into the box consistently. That's what I noticed in the first half today, was that he was constantly making that driving forward run. And what a difference from Jordan Henderson, which, who's been steady Eddie as that right-sided 8. Like, it's a very, very different type player. Touching on the third midfielder, I'll bring this comment up from Chris from earlier. I think
Yeah.
you touched on it a little bit. Says it's only been 2 matches, but Trent is not a 6. His game is being restricted too much by playing there. He's a right back and should play the inverted role. I personally was of the belief of that before going in, and I've been very surprised to see that we've gone with Connor Bradley and Trent starting both games. I didn't think we'd see that. I thought we would see Connor Bradley coming on for the second half, Trent playing that role. I'm not sure how much this is a needs must thing because, again, we're a little short of bodies, especially that first game. We were extremely short of midfielders that Trent just had to play there. Now we've got a few more players back. 2 games in a row, though, for Trent in that 6. How are you liking it, Kev?
I agree with Chris. He's not a 6 in the traditional sense. He's learning the role. He's probably only ever played a handful of games in that role from start to finish. So I agree with him that he's not a player that you'd start as your 6 in the 6 role. I agree with him that and it looks like we're going to go with this inverted right back or left back, depending if Joe Gomez starts. But that's a conversation we'll get on to in a second. I think Trent will start as right back and move into midfield and play that second 6 role, who's more adventurous, who can get forward, where you'll have a 6 sitting and protecting. I think eventually he can learn the role. I think he's still a young guy at 24. You know, usually what you find with the best holding midfielders, they don't hit their straps really in that role until they're in their late 20s. You look at Paulinho at Fulham as a classic example. A really good player throughout his career, but never got a big move anywhere. Didn't suddenly goes to Fulham at 27, and it's like, wow. And the reason why is because he's spent that long learning the role, and it takes time. It's probably one of the most difficult positions to play on a pitch because you're generally on your own, and you have to police a massive space, and your ability to read the ball is as important, if not more important than your pace and your ability to pass a ball and whatever. Your ability to tactically read a game and what's happening within that is huge, and that only comes with experience. You can't learn that on a computer watching simulations and watching situations. It's lived experience in the role, and that could take time. I think it'll take him. I think Trent eventually will play that role, no problem, but I think it might not be for another couple of years. I honestly see him being that right back, inverting into that second 6 for a while. But I was impressed with Connor Bradley in the first half and how he did it. I really like him a lot. I think he's going to be a really good player.
Yeah, he was.
No doubt about
he
it. I
was
just
your
think
one
he's going to be a good player.
He was your one to watch when we did our show about a month or so ago, and boy, you are looking like a modern day Nostradamus with that. Because
I still get absolute clangers. Don't worry about that. But I think this kid has got a future.
You forget about the ones you get wrong, Kev. Just only focus on the successes. Don't worry about the ones you get wrong.
That's old age.
Yeah, but I mean, like, even for the first goal, I mean, we'll get onto the goal itself, but I noticed that Connor Bradley was about the furthest person forward on our team. Like, he was bursting forward. Like, he wasn't sitting back like Trent was doing when I think back to last season where, he was sitting kind of at the base of midfield. Yeah, he was venturing forward a little bit. Like, Connor Bradley seemed to have the license to just go, go, go. The part about Chris's comment that I wanted to touch on was saying is, like, it's stifling his game. I think, and I said this in our Telegram group when the game was on this morning, it felt like it was a directed tactic from the coaching staff, because after the Karlsruhe game, Klopp seemed a little unhappy that the ball was being funneled to Trent just constantly. It was give it to Trent, give it to Trent, give it to Trent. And it almost seemed like we went the other way to an extreme of try to do it without giving the ball to Trent, because he really wasn't getting on the ball in a lot of ways. Like, you're seeing, a good number of long diagonal passes out of defense, trying to find Luis Diaz in a little bit of space to use his pace out on the left. And Trent was really kind of just sitting at that base of midfield. And I'd like to see him on the ball a little bit more, and I think he will naturally, because he's probably the best ball player on our team, maybe outside of Diogo. But I was watching, especially when I rewatched it when I got home after work today, and he's taking up better positions than I would have thought the Trent Alexander-Arnold right back who can't defend was going to take up in the middle of the park. because when the conversation of moving Trent into midfield was happening last season, before he became this inverted fullback role, I had a tough time seeing it because, if you think his positional awareness was sometimes quite suspect playing as right back. You drop him into the middle of the park and he's got that 360-degree thread around him of like, his head's going to be absolutely kettled and I don't think he can do it. And he's proving me wrong. And I mean, maybe that's just the maturity that comes from, entering his prime years and having to take on a little bit more responsibility in the team. But I'm really happy with, from the last 10 games of last season and what we've seen in the first 2 preseason games this year, of just his awareness. He's constantly got his head on a swivel. He's got snap in his legs. Like he's not doing that thing we were screaming at him for at the start of last season, where he just didn't seem like he could be asked to run back and help out with defending. Like he really seems switched on in there. So I'm quite liking it. But I agree. I think come the Chelsea game, I think Trent's going to be the right back. Like,
I think the right back to pushing into being that second centre mid. You shouldn't be starting as your primary centre mid in that kind of a role the way we want to play. It doesn't do him any favors, but at the same time, he'll do a job. He got the assist for the first goal, so
he did. Yeah, it's a very simple assist.
Yeah, but to be fair, Luis Diaz was brilliant for the goal. It was, and I hold my hands up. I'm not going to hold my hands up because I still think the jury's out on Luis Diaz in a massive way, because what we need him to be able to provide from the left-hand side is goals. Yeah. And I haven't seen anything so far to tell me that he can replicate what Sadio gave us in terms of goals. I think he's a fantastic footballer. I think he can attack wing back. He can attack fullbacks. He can cut in and he can create space. He's really good on the eye. His end product has to be better this season. We need him to score goals. And, that was a lovely finish. It genuinely was. It was like check back in and then go again and create the angle and slot it away. You need to see more of that.
A snapshot too. Like he took no time. Like the backlift on it was very minimal, and he got real good power on it. Like lovely to see out in the box. 3 players crowding around him. Yeah, good finish.
Yeah, it was a good finish, and it was something that they deserved at the time. Look, they pretty much dominated the first half. They could have had 2 or 3 in the first half, but for a bit of luck, bit of better finishing. I'll give the side that we were playing a fair bit of credit. They played a high line, a really high line. And for a second division side in Germany, you don't expect to see that level of ability off the ball. Granted, they're almost ready to start their season.
Their season starts pretty quick.
They're miles ahead of us in that term, and they've got a couple of good players, especially the ex-Bayern striker that scored a brace today. He looks like a real talent, but it's look, there's more positives to come out of that first half than anything else. You got to hold your hands up. There was some really good interplay, some really good link-up play, really good 1-2 touch play around Jota. So Jota looked an absolute live wire. He hit the post as well.
Great swivel.
Ball went into the keeper. He got there just before the keeper. In the Premier League, I guarantee he's going down because that's a penalty all day long. And that one where he cuts it back, I mean, the goalposts don't move. The lines in the penalty box is the same in every pitch in the world. And it was just a whisker. It was one of those. It deserved the goal for the ingenuity to be able to get it. Jota looks really sharp in preseason. I got to be honest, he looks really, really sharp. Almost
and linking up well with Gakpo.
Yeah, and McAllister.
Yeah, that really bodes well. Like the ability for, like, I don't know if it's a horses for courses thing of putting Gakpo in as that midfield option as opposed to as a forward option, but being able to get both of those players, Jota and Gakpo, on the pitch, I think that gives us a real strong ability to overload midfield. And that might be an option against some of the bigger teams that look to control the game in midfield. Like, I don't know if I want to go as far as say like an away against Man City, because I still have no idea what our lineup would be, going away to the Etihad, because
it won't
I
change.
don't know what our
It won't. I'm telling you now, the one thing that I've seen, because people forget, we started all of this. All of this stuff started with our game against Arsenal, and Arsenal were flying, going for a title. Granted, it was at home, but this all started, this inverted right back stuff all started in that Arsenal game. So Klopp don't give a shit about who we're playing. They'll have to adapt to what we're going to be able to do. And we have to be able to do what we want to do really well. So it's up to us to enforce our game on them. And it's up to them to deal with it. And that looks like that's what his attitude is going to be. I don't think he's going to adapt too much for any opponent.
No, I think the formation, I meant more so the personnel.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm not sure if you go away to the Etihad, if you're looking at like a McAllister and Szoboszlai in with whoever's going to play the 6 for us, or whether you'd go, because I mean, we showed it. I don't know if it was away to City or home to City, but we played 4-2-4 when we had the front three and Klopp threw Jota in there. And I mean, that's a team where I'm thinking of where they absolutely suffocate the middle of the park. They're dropping those players in, they're pushing up one of their defenders in and getting those extra bodies in midfield. And last year we were getting slaughtered in midfield by garbage teams. So the option of having Jota to drop deep from the forward position and Gakpo in there in midfield, just bouncing around. But you wanted to talk about taking positives out of the first half. Liam Dunn, we got to talk about him. I mean, he says Doak was exciting. I think he's making his case to be that fringe player with the first team. I really do. I think there's a spot there for him. We don't have a natural backup to Salah. I don't think Harvey Elliott's that position. I think Harvey Elliott's going to try to win that spot, that right-sided 8, that top right-hand corner of that box midfield. I think that's more Harvey Elliott's role. I just feel that there's a spot there to be the guy that gives Mo Salah 15 minutes at the end of a game.
Yeah, I think that's how you have to use him. I mean, you're going to get a lot of calls to send him out on loan. At his age, I don't think it's good to throw a 17, 18-year-old out into the championship, because that's where he'd have to go, out into the championship and play a 46-game season. We saw what happened to Stefan at the back end of last season when he was playing games on the bounce. It's tough ask at any level, at any age. But for a young player at that age to go into the championship and play back-to-back games, and the championships are a relentless slog of a season. To do that, I think you could probably do more harm than good. I think him being around the first team squad could benefit him for a year. I agree with you. It could be one of the biggest beneficiaries of being in the Europa League is having someone like him to play an hour in games and know that he's going to be playing them, so he can prepare himself properly to play in those games. I mean, I don't expect to see Mo Salah playing in the Europa League group games. So there's a spot for him for sure. And he's one of these ones that you can keep him around until January and then make a decision in January as to what happens then. And I think Gerald Kwanzaa is in exactly that boat. You keep him around till January and make a decision then. There's a massive benefit for keeping him. He's got to learn, and this is all this preseason is done for him. This is what it's like to be playing, first team football when you're away with the first team. It's faster, it's harder. I know Mo Salah would disagree with me, but Mo Salah wants to play every single game going, and sometimes
every minute, every game.
Yeah. Mo Salah needs protecting from himself at his age, but yeah, no, I just think that he's got an opportunity. He's going to get opportunities. He's really quick. He's direct. Yeah. If he develops the way you hope he will, and adds goals to his game. And bodes well for Scotland. It's massive. It's massive.
Yeah, whether it bodes well for Scotland or not doesn't really ruffle my feathers whatsoever.
It does for believe me, it does for these players. And
yeah, it's true.
It's like you often see it with players where they'll move to further their international career. And I just think that if he kicks on at Liverpool, he's going to go to World Cups. He's going to go to European Championships. He's going to be an absolute superstar. And there's no better person to be managing him at this stage of his career than Klopp, because he's been there, he's seen it, he's done it, and he's seen these type of players before, and he's made them into superstars. So,
and to learn from Mo Salah. I mean, in terms of like the attitude that you need to bring to training every day and looking after your body and getting into the right shape sort of thing, like that all bodes very well for him. I mean, that's kind of the first half. I agree with you. I think we kind of bossed the first half, which was good to see because, again, they're further along. I think they probably played 6 or 7 preseason games. This is only our second one. So we're getting into the second half, and hopefully, like Liverpool did, we're going to do a full change here. Are Chris and Gav going to come in and talk about the second half? We're going to do a full.
Not quite. We're going to have to suck it up. And well, look, I'm not going to get too deep into it because the first 2 goals were stupid. The ball from back to Adrian was a silly ball. Adrian should have dealt with it better. And it was a good finish. It was good pressing. It was what you expect from German sides. It was really good aggressive pressing to force the situation. And the best thing about that goal from their point of view, if you look at how their striker cut off the lane from Adrian to Joe Gomez, it boxed Adrian in. And all he could do was launch it, and he just didn't. He just had a complete brain fart, played a stupid pass.
And the angle that he opened his body up to Adrian when he received the ball, you can tell he's not confident with his left foot.
Yeah.
And he received the ball completely closed off, where the only play he could do would be a little outside of the right foot pass or try to kick it as hard as he could with his left foot. And it was not
Chris
good.
Chris Hockey has got to elaborate on that comment. Chris Hockey normally listens to us on Spotify or wherever he gets his downloads. Usually listen, don't watch. Matt looks nothing like he sounds. How did you think Matt was going to look?
I sound like I have short hair, apparently.
So,
yeah, I mean, their goals, I'm not too concerned about. I mean, I think was
the second one was offside. The second one was offside. The second one was
quite
offside.
Clearly.
It was. But saying that, Matip threw a lazy leg, 86-yard box. It was just stupid. But at the end of the day, their goals, if you're going to make mistakes, make them there and leave them there. The third goal, I think, was they got on the counter. I'll just go through their goals quickly. They got their third goal on the counter. It was a really good counter, and it was a hell of a strike. And fair, we just got done. Too many players overcommitted going forward and got done on the counter for their third. I think that.
Yeah, that's the one where it cuts back. They cut the ball back to the top of our box, and he rifles it into the top left corner. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
great strike.
You could put two keepers in there. They weren't stopping that.
You could put 10 Adrians in there, and they wouldn't stop it.
Their fourth one then was another one. It was just Sleb got it on about 5 yards out in the edge of the box and just knocked it past Petaluga. It was a really good finish. Credit where it's due. They had it was a really good finish. But then you get onto our goals because, I mean, we went from 3-1 up, and we'll talk about ours. That, they went, they got their goal, and 3 minutes later, we got ours back, and it was a beautiful football goal. And it all started with Adrian. Coming to claim a cross.
Yeah, we can slam him for giving up the goal, but you got to give him credit.
You can slam him for giving up the goal. About a minute before that, he made a really good save. But he come for the cross, claimed it, got the ball to Harvey Elliott really quickly. Brilliant ball from Harvey into Mo, into Darwin. Darwin chopped back onto his left foot. He took it on his chest onto his right foot, chopped it back onto his left foot, and slotted it past the keeper. And I thought their keeper had a really good game, by the way.
No, I think that's the finish of Darwin's second goal. The first one is the one where he knocks it around the keeper and dinks it with his right foot to the far side.
Yeah, the second one his first one he knocks it on his chest, chops it back onto his left foot and whips it around the keeper. But
okay. I might be getting those confused. I thought no. You're getting those wrong. Harvey Elliott plays that beautiful through ball to Mo. Mo plays that little left foot switch pass that he was trying a lot in the Karlsruhe game, of just waiting with the defense and trying to just slot it in behind with that angled run coming from Darwin. And Darwin took it around the keeper and lobbed it over the keeper with his right foot into the left side of the goal. Darwin's second goal is the one where he takes it down, chops it back onto his left foot and curls it.
You're right. I just got confused. Look, there were two really good goals, but they were brilliant
Darwin's
football
banging
goals.
them in. It's
they were
hard to keep him straight.
He's a nice problem to have. No, it was one of those. It was one of those.
It's preseason.
It was one of those goals that, like, I just got it mixed up in my head. It's no big deal, but it was. I still don't think he starts in the Chelsea game. I just don't think he. I think he's doing everything to give Klopp a real headache, and everything that you asked him to do today was really good. But I still think that Jota's ahead of him in a big way. I think Jota looks sharper, and he offers you more off the ball. Darwin he's brilliant at getting in behind. Those goals today typified him in games where sides play a high line and give you space to run into. He's absolutely lethal in those kind of games. The thing is, he could have had a hat trick with a header, and credit to the keeper, it was a brilliant save because he did everything right. Cross came across the box, he headed it back where it came from, he headed it down, he headed it with power, and it was just absolutely brilliant. But the keeper got a stop to it. And I wouldn't fault him for that. But it's a nice problem to have where you've got two different forwards that offer you two different things, and both of them are clinical. And Darwin's that player who can get in behind. Jota can interlink play, and he's a shark in the box. He's an absolute killer in the box. But his interplay is probably better than what Darwin's is. And I think he offers you that against the better sides more than what Darwin does.
See, and I'm going to disagree with you, but first I'm going to deal with this comment from Chris Hockley, who figured that I was going to look like James Pearce. Now, I know that I'm Canadian, and South Park has made everybody believe that our heads come apart like a burger, but I do not have a burger head. I do not look like James Pearce. So I'm glad that I did not live up to the I look like James Pearce situation. So I'm going to disagree in the sense that I get the feeling that the reason we've seen Darwin paired up with Mo for both of these preseason games is I think that Klopp wants that. There's just something about it. I think he wants that big money signing to pay off because he knows that's how our transfers have to work. We can't just be willy-nilly spending 63 million pounds on a player and having them not work out. I think Jota can come in and augment a game, but I think that it's come that Chelsea game. I think the left side position might be up for grabs. You might see Jota come in on the left. I doubt it. I would presume it's going to be Diaz, but I just think that he's going to try to give him that confidence of going like, you got the number 9 shirt. I'm pairing you with Mo Salah. They seem to be building up a pretty good rapport between the two of them. I mean, they've been linking up with I think 5 goals now that it's been one to the other in the 2 preseason games. And I know it's preseason, but this is all the evidence we have to work with. So we have to use it.
John Halton makes a really good point there. Darwin seems to be an instinct type player. And he is. He's at his best when he doesn't have to think. And no problem with that in a forward. Absolutely no problem with that in a forward whatsoever. But if you're going to be playing in a side that wants to dominate the ball and dominate possession, you're going to have to think, because your positionally, you're going to have to be on it all the time to be in the right place at the right time. So that's where, for me, I think Jota is the better player. And I don't care about price tags. I just look at who offers you the most in the system that you want to play and how you want to approach a game. I just think at the moment, Diogo Jota offers you that bit more. But I'm not going to lose too much sleep at that end of the pitch, because I think we score over 100 goals next season. And I have no problems whatsoever with us creating chances. scoring goals. We created an absolute bucket full of chances again today. Could have had a lot more than the 4 that we had. And it wasn't through bad finishing. Jota had one in the first half where if he goes side foot across the keeper, he scores. He goes side
or
foot.
just pass it to Luis Diaz.
Yeah. He goes side. He's never passing there. I'd nearly throw the remote at the telly if he passed it there. It was like he goes side foot to the near post. It was just a bad choice of finish. But yeah, no striker worth their salt is passing that ball. Never in a million years. But no, I fully expect us to score 100 goals. My biggest worry is the left back position if anything happens to Andy Robertson. Chris has been going on about Costa Simicas for a while, and I don't mind him as an orthodox left back if he's asked to do that orthodox left back role. But if we're trying to do this inverted full back role with him, while Joe Gomez is starting right back, and I have no problem with Joe Gomez, by the way, starting right back. He was fine today. But I just look at, he cannot do that. He can't do it. He doesn't have the football brain to do the doggies, to get in and out in those, and to be positionally right in that's, he just, I don't think he has that in him. And to ask him to do it is almost horses for courses, because there's nobody else to do it. If anything happens to Andy Robertson on that left-hand side, that's a problem. It is a problem, no doubt about it.
Yeah, it's Mick Glynchy here says Costas got booked in a preseason friendly. He's not getting on my good side. He started a mini scuffle. In his defense, he picked up that yellow card because he was being pulled back when he was trying to make that tackle. But I mean, to front a guy up in a preseason friendly, like, it was like, okay, come on, like, it's just, let's calm down. Like,
they were throwing tackles in at the time. They were throwing tackles in at the time. It was getting tasty at that stage.
Yeah, and it was a little too much, because we don't need any injuries. No, but just let's everybody just calm down, take a deep breath. Everybody's about to get on a big, long 20-hour plane flight to go to Singapore now. So let's all just make sure we're healthy getting onto that plane going forward.
Yeah.
Other players in the second half, a fair few more kids came in. Kumas, I don't think did a whole lot. I know he plays primarily as a striker, so he was shunted out onto the left to make room for Darwin to play down through the middle. Didn't really have much of an impact. The other two, though, towards the back end of the pitch, I think they both had pretty good cameos in the 2 preseason games. In James McConnell in the 6, I don't think he's going to make the team. I'm not saying that at all. I think he's done a serviceable job. I mean, he got absolutely sold down the river by Adrian for their first goal, but I mean, that didn't seem to throw him off of his game. Yeah, exactly.
He's a tidy footballer. I wouldn't mind seeing him. He's one of these guys that if he goes and plays for the 23s next season, and the thing is, the under 23s next year don't have a European competition, as far as I know. So, he'll play in the league. I think the Premier League 1 or Premier League 2, whichever one it is. But yeah, he'll definitely be better for the experience of being involved in the preseason games. But as players' fitness kicks on for the Singapore trip, I expect him to be on the trip, but I don't expect him to be as involved, because hopefully by then we'll have addressed that number 6 issue, in a positive way by the time we get to Singapore. We hopefully.
Well, even if it's as simple as Stefan Bajcetic is coming back in and picking up minutes, or Diogo is coming back in, freeing up somebody else to move. We're getting bodies back every week that we go through, like, regardless of whether we're bringing players into the transfer window, which, for the love of God, we better be bringing players into the transfer window. But like, Diogo's on the sidelines waiting to come back, and so is Stefan Bajcetic, and so that's just going to help fill up that midfield with a It's weird to say more experienced players when you're talking about a 18, 19-year-old in Bajcetic, but he's been with the team. But Robert Maguire here, he's mentioning or asking, will this Jarrell Kwanzaa be back up in that left center back position? I don't think so either. I think it's probably a step too soon. But this is, I might be of a half a mind to keep my LFC TV Go subscription just to try to keep an eye on the unders to see whether the I think it's under 21s now, isn't it? Under 23s,
No,
whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whether they play this same 3-box-3 system.
I don't know if they will, but the one thing that I'll say is I think he'll take the Nat Phillips role as being your fifth centre back. If Nat gets sold, I think he'll be that fifth one that, for example, anything happens to any of the front four, he'd be on the bench or in the match day squad for a game. And I don't know how much he would. That's it. There's a decision to be made on him. And the truth is, I think he's going to be a really good player. Do you send him to the championship to play a full season, which will probably benefit him long-term more than being in the squad? That's why I think a decision for him will be best made in January, to maybe send him out on loan for the second half of the season.
This is why I'm wondering whether the under team is going to be playing the same system, because if the under team is going to be playing the same system as we are, as opposed to the old style 4-3-3 formation, I think it's more beneficial for him to stay in the Liverpool system, to not go out on loan, because it's very doubtful that a team in the Championship or League One is going to be playing a 3-box-3 with an inverted fullback system. That doesn't seem like the type of football that's going to get played there. So if we're looking at this, and it's something that we were talking about before we came on the air, and I'm just going to save that Sean P. Casey's super chat. I'll get to that in a second, Sean. We were talking about this just before we came on, is the Levi Colwill situation. It seems like that ship has sailed now, with Chelsea's young center halves all picking up injuries and Chelsea just needing Levi Colwill to play on their team. Like, odds are pretty good that Levi Colwill is going to start for Chelsea on the first game of the season against us. It's going to be him and Diogo Silva. Yeah. So the chances of getting him out of Chelsea now are pretty much zero. So we need to move on from that. And whether we try to find another Levi Colwill in the market or not, who knows? But I was saying when Gav, Keith, and Shawnee did a show 2-3 months ago talking about who you'd like to see brought in the transfer window, and they mentioned Gvardiol, and I couldn't wrap my head around how we could justify spending that much money on a player who's clearly ready to take that next step when the position that they're going to be vying for is occupied by Virgil van Dijk. And I kind of felt the same way about Colwill. I mean, the money thing is less, but he's also much younger and far less proven than Gvardiol is. But it's still the situation of, that's your Virgil van Dijk replacement, and Virgil's not ready to be replaced yet. And Jarell Kwanzaa is 2 years younger than Levi Colwill. We already own him. He can be in Liverpool, in our system, learning the role that we want him to play for a year from now or 2 years from now. And that, it just saves us so much headache. So I think if this new system has been filtered down through the entire Liverpool academy system, like the 4-3-3 was years ago when Klopp first came in, I think we see him stay around. And yeah, he'll be that fifth choice. He'll fill out a non-homegrown spot. It doesn't count because he doesn't need to be registered. And if something happens, like, last season against Crystal Palace, where Nat Phillips ends up starting, but most weeks he won't be in the match squad, and then you can just send him to play down with the under-23s. And I think that'll do absolute world of good for him, because you look at the size of him. I mean, he is filled out very well for 20 years old. Like, he's got some size to him, unlike Billy Comedio, who looked, very skinny and lanky at that age. Even though he had the height, he didn't have the solid muscle mass to him. So yeah, I like that idea though of, let's get to January, see how the landscape lies, and we can take it from there. So coming back around, Sean P. Casey with a £4.99 super chat. He says, how long are you going to give it to get another signing before we have a proper meltdown? Where's your meltdown timer at? Don't do meltdowns? Well,
no. I get frustrated when a player leaves. That 24 hours, whenever like the Fabinho stuff came out of nowhere, I don't like being out of control in the transfer market. I like to have, when you go into a transfer market, you know who you want to sell, and you're in control of your own situation. We're not at the moment. We're out of control at the minute in the transfer market, but there's absolutely nothing I can do to affect it. no amount of me shouting and ranting and raving like an idiot is going to affect anything. I don't understand why people do, to be honest, because as soon as the window closes, I'm going to put my red tinted glasses on and I'll just support the team. You know, that's right. Who we got, and there's no point in crying about it. Saying that, we absolutely. Oh, yo, Chris, I do meltdowns. I do absolute meltdowns. The day Fabinho was announced, I was like, "What in the hell is going on?" The day Henderson was announced that he was leaving, I was like, "Are you for real?" Had complete meltdowns for about a day, and then I calmed down. And then I calmed down and I started to think about it. I was like, look, there's obviously got to be moving parts around other leagues. And you saw it today with Southampton are looking to bring in Hamza Chowdhury from Leicester.
Really?
That number? Yeah. They're
Chowdhury.
They're trying to bring him in for Leicester, which would free up someone to leave, Lavia to leave. And other sides have to get ducks in a row before they let anyone go. You know, that's just the way the world works, you know. And
it's the same with us. You know, we still haven't let Fabinho and Henderson go yet. You know, they're still, those transfers are not official yet, and they could still fall apart because of dogs or failed medicals at any given moment. So,
yeah. Look, O'Sheen makes a point there as well. It is a sad day for football with Trevor Francis passed away. Chris Barrett-Williams passed away. Oh, my God.
Well, my wife says they always come in threes, so if we stay on broadcasting long enough, we'll get a third one.
Trevor Francis, I mean, the thing is, for me anyway, I remember watching Trevor Francis in the 82 World Cup. So when I'm starting seeing players that I've watched in my childhood and they're dying, passing away, he's 69 years of age. He passed away from a heart attack. It's just sad. I mean, the obvious statement is that, he was the first £1 million player. But to say that he scored the winning goal in the European Cup final against Malmo in his first game in Europe. He scored the goals to get Forest to their second European Cup final and missed the final because of injury. He was a pioneer in a lot of ways as well, because he traveled. He started off his career in Birmingham, 1970. Went to Detroit in 1978 on loan. Was in the equivalent of the MLS, the NASL Team of the Year that year with Franz Beckenbauer. Come back, went to Forest for he only spent 2 years at Forest, had a really bad injury. Cruciate. No, it was not cruciate. It was Achilles, I think. But then he went to Man City. Then he went to Sampdoria and Atalanta. Went to Rangers, QPR. But then he finished his career at Sheffield Wednesday and had 4 stints in management with QPR, Sheffield Wednesday, Birmingham City, and Crystal Palace. And from every interview I watched today about him, he's just an all-round good egg. He's just a really good guy. And to see someone at 69 pass away, it's early. Young. 69 these days is not an old man. Mostly remember him as a good manager for Sheffield Wednesday, team in the early 90s. And they were a good side, Darren Dunbar makes a point there. They were a good footballing side. It's just a shame. I didn't know about Chris Barrett-Williams. That's new to me, because he was
I've never even heard of this person.
I remember him at Nottingham Forest in the Premier League. 49 years. 49. He's a year younger than me. That is shockingly sad. That is just shockingly sad. It's crazy. But look, we'll move on to quickly finish up, mate. I'm going to ask you, what would you do? What would you do if someone turned around and offered you a move to earn £68,500 an hour for a 12-month contract? What do you do?
Where am I moving?
Kylian Mbappe. PSG have accepted a bid of £259 million from I think it's Al Halal.
Yeah.
And the reported contract is for £600 million, which equates to £50 million a month, £1.64 million per day, an hourly rate of £68,500 per hour, £19 per second.
Yeah.
What do you do? Because it makes a mockery of your football ambitions if you're willing to go for that much money when you've just touted yourself as, I want to go and play for Real Madrid. I want to build my legacy like Zinedine Zidane. I want to be this, that, and the other. I want to be looked back at as a football legend and the best player in the world. But there's a boatload of money. Tiger Woods turned it down. The Live Golf offer. Yep, Live Golf offered Tiger Woods $700 million at the back end of his career, where the guy's back was broke. And all he had to do was just show up, and Tiger Woods turned it down. Yep. Rory McIlroy turned it down.
Yep.
Leo Messi turned it down. What does Kylian Mbappe
Jordan
do
Henderson.
at his age?
Oh, no, wait. No,
I'm not kidding. I don't care about that.
I'll speak personally for myself. I would turn it down because my apostasy would lead me to get the death penalty there. So what good is £68,000 an hour going to do when I can legally be put to death? So until that contract is actually offered to me and I'm given some assurances that I won't be killed by the government, I'm going to go ahead and say I would say no. And I will continue to say no because that contract's never coming to me. I'm very interested to see how this is going to play out. So PSG has accepted the bid, and obviously, why wouldn't you accept a world record bid?
Yeah, they're desperate to get him out.
Of course they are, because they have no power in this situation. They owe him an absolute mountain of money. 150 million euros, 150 million pounds, or something like that for the final year of his contract, because they gave him the keys to the castle. And now he wants out of that castle, but he still wants his money. So PSG seems like they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. And now it all comes down to Mbappe. And I'm very interested in it because I don't want to go too over the top with it, but it's sad that the integrity of football might be in the hands of Kylian Mbappe in the next 24, 48 hours to decide whether he's going to do it.
That, Glenn Parsons and Emmett Kavanagh, both of this parish, both saying that Mbappe has no intention of going to Saudi Arabia. It's one of those decisions. And the thing is, if you're good enough to command that kind of a contract, you're good enough to go anywhere in the world for that level of money. And to put it into perspective, all right, I did a bit of digging. The biggest contract that I could find in sports is the NFL is $52 million for Lamar Jackson. Currently, Cristiano Ronaldo, €200 million at Al Nassr for football. Nikola Jovic, Denver, $54.4 million. Baseball, Max Schneider, or
Scherzer,
$43.3 million.
Only works every fifth day.
Ice hockey, Nathan McKinnon, $12.6 million. Max Verstappen puts his life on the line.
Does he though? He doesn't even have to try hard. He still puts his life on the line.
The race was over
after the first turn, Kev. The race was over after the first turn.
51.1 million euro. That goes to show the level of money that is being offered to these footballers and how determined Saudi Arabia are to become the focal point, the number one brand over the next decade for world football. They are willing to throw the kitchen sink at it. They don't go into things half-hearted, and they don't go into things to finish second.
But here's the question, Kev. Like, I can understand the money that they've been throwing at older players, like the money that they're throwing for Jordan Henderson or even Fabinho, like what is the international marketing appeal of a Fabinho or a Jordan Henderson? I don't see it being much. Like I get that Henderson, was England captain, Liverpool captain, but he's at the tail end of his career. Like there's not an army of fans that are Jordan Henderson stans on Twitter that are willing to die on their Jordan Henderson defending hill. As a matter of fact, it's the exact opposite. You've got all of these people that hate Jordan Henderson. So I never quite understood that. I can kind of understand maybe a fraction of the money that they're throwing at Kylian Mbappe to get him into their league, to bring the eyes on that league. But if the reports are correct of they're offering that 600 or 700 million for 1 year, and it's a 1-year contract so that he can go to Real Madrid, are the eyes that he brings to the league not just going to leave in a year? Like if the fans just follow these players and they're so fickle that they're willing to stop watching the French league, which I don't watch the French league. I didn't watch PSG. I had no intention in watching that. Like it did not seem sporting just about that one team was able to bring in Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe and play against Lens and Orient and stuff like that. Sure, some people did because of the glamour of watching all of these superstars playing together. And those people might go and watch the Saudi league. But then when Mbappe inevitably leaves and goes to Real Madrid, are they not just going to leave with him? Like, I don't get the long-term payoff from this.
The long-term payoff is the fact that they can do it. And they're literally going to turn football. Their ambition will be to turn Saudi Arabia into if not the best league within 10, 20 years. The one place where you think of, you've got your European leagues, you've got your Premier League and your top leagues in Europe. Their ambition will be to win the Club World Cup, the new expanded Club World Cup of 32 teams. At the moment, the Saudi League is ranked 72nd in the world in terms of league quality. By the time they're done with it, they'll be the biggest club or the biggest league outside of Europe or in the world, and they'll be a destination league for a lot of players. I mean, I just think that for now, it's shots across the bow for a lot of players, for a lot of clubs, that there's a big new player in town. It literally brings back the idea that nobody is safe. It brings back the idea when PSG started throwing money, when they very first started, that they can reach out and attract any player by paying obscene money. There's no financial fair play. There's no rules in that they have to live by. Whereas you look at Manchester United. Manchester United are desperate to bring in a striker. They're desperate to bring in Harry Kane. They can't afford to bring Harry Kane in because of financial fair play. They just physically cannot do it. They don't have the money or the movement. And
can they get Weghorst back?
They don't have to live within those rules. That's the whole point. And when it comes down to football players, once they reach a certain level and a certain age, it's a business. We're fans. We support clubs. Through thick and thin, we support clubs.
Absolutely.
But players,
Kev,
it's a business.
Is the whole plan, is the Saudi plan dealt maybe not a fatal blow, but certainly a tough blow if Mbappe says no?
No, because
that doesn't mean that any player is safe. I mean, Messi said no. They couldn't get Messi at the tail end of his career, and they threw $1 billion at him. $1 billion.
Yeah, but they got into the room to make the offer.
Right. Sure.
No other club in world football had a bid accepted by PSG. That to them is a win in itself. The fact that they can make a bid and have that bid accepted by a big club like PSG or a wealthy club like PSG shows that they can reach out. They could reach out to Liverpool and offer 250 million for Mo Salah, and you'd have to have a serious conversation about it. The same for Virgil van Dijk, same for Alisson Becker. There isn't a player that they can't reach out and put a bid in now and get in the room to offer the contract. Whereas before they were offering contracts to players ready for the retirement.
I think you got your language wrong though, Kev. If Mbappe has turned them down, there's not a club they can't get on board with.
Oh, yeah.
But there is a player they can't get. And now there's maybe the two biggest names in world football, in Lionel Messi and Kylian Mbappe, have now both said no. And all it takes is just that. Like, let's take the last show I was on. The news was Luis Diaz. Thankfully, that news has died off. It seems like it's completely gone away. But maybe now, the next time that happens, maybe it's Darwin Nunez. Maybe he goes, well, Mbappe said no for footballing reasons. Not for money
footballing reasons and legacy reasons.
Exactly. Legacy reasons. And this is why I'm not concerned about, at least for the next year, like, there's no way that Mo Salah would leave Liverpool this year. There's no way.
Not this year, no.
Maybe not
There's
even
no
next
way
year.
this year.
No, absolutely no way this year. But I don't even know if he'd do it next year, because he's got a legacy mindset about him. And like you said about Mbappe, that he wants to be thought of as this type of player, as a Zidane level player, like, a Platini level player. And you don't do that by taking a year out of your prime and going and playing in a league that is currently kind of a joke.
It is a joke for
now. In terms of its ranking. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a joke for now. And we'll see how it plays out. The difference between the Saudi League and the CSL when the Chinese started is the Chinese got bored of paying all this money to foreigners to come in and take the money out of the country. Saudi Arabia don't care. Their whole point is the image, is the illusion, the image, selling the country. That's their whole ambition, is to turn that Gulf region into the sports hub of the world. And their football is just a part of it. It's the same as F1, tennis, golf, UFC, boxing, WWE, anything to do with sports and entertainment. They want it to be involved, and that's the aim, to move their economy away from what's running out, to move towards something that they can monetize, and that's the whole point. But look, enough of that for now.
Luckily, it's too hot in the desert to have hockey rinks, because they could buy the NHL lock, stock, and barrel for the amount of money they offered to Kylian Mbappe. So hockey is safe.
Emmett put a comment there about an interview that Fabio Carvalho gave over in Leipzig, and the comment is, he was asked if Klopp gave him advice. I don't really speak to him, to be fair. He hasn't given me any advice. I just had to learn as I go, and I feel it's better that way for me to mature. He's right. He needs to mature. How do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, I've only seen the tweeted snippets of this interview, so I have absolutely no idea the context. I have no idea the validity of it. If we take it on face value if we take it on face value that it is true, and you read the context and the way that it sounds, which is a little bit, I don't know, petty and childish, it fits in with the type of player that texts his national team manager and says, I don't want to play for you anymore. And that's not good. And it goes to the key word in there, which is mature. And he does. He needs that year away. So I'm hoping that he can just get his head down, go to Leipzig, play some football, just be away from the spotlight. Don't do any more interviews. Just focus on your career, because it took a little bit of a hiccup going from Fulham. His year at Liverpool last season did not go the way that he probably hoped it would, that a lot of people hoped that it would. I saw another comment of his that he was brought in to play a 10 and we didn't play with a 10. He's correct. We've now shifted to a system where I could see Fabio Carvalho playing in our system now as one of those advanced roles. Exactly. Not right now, but you could see him coming in and playing that left-sided advanced 8 role that's getting into the box and being that 4th, 5th person getting into the box behind the striker sort of thing. So there is a role there for him if he's that inflexible as a player that he's incapable of playing the left-sided 8 in a 4-3-3 or the left-sided winger because he doesn't have the pace for it. But he needs to just get his career back on track. So whether he has a future at Liverpool or not, it doesn't matter, but he's got a big year ahead of him. He's got a big year ahead of him. He needs to have a good year at Leipzig, and it'll probably end up with him leaving Liverpool.
I don't know. Okay. I don't look. This is what my 2 cents on this. I don't expect Klopp to talk to any player who's going out on loan. That's why you employ a loan manager. Someone is your go-between between the club you, and the management at the club. At the end of the day, he was brought in on on a pretty cheap deal as a young
12 million, I
kid.
think.
Yeah, as a young kid to see how he progressed. He needs the loan, massively needs the loan. The Bundesliga will suit him, but he needs to go and play. And he's not going to play at Liverpool. He needs to go and play. It's typical of a German media because Klopp is just like massive. So it's typical of the German media to ask that type of question. And I'm sorry, I haven't got a problem with the answer because why would Klopp talk to him? Why would he talk to him? But, he'd have been told you're going on loan. This is the law manager who's in charge of loans at the club. He's the person you speak to. I just don't see too much into it. He does have to learn as he goes. It's a big club with 30-odd senior players. You're not going to get special individual treatment. Not at his age. Yeah. He needs to go and play. I don't see a big deal either way.
Yeah, exactly.
As Emmett
Kavanagh.
said,
yeah. Emmett Kavanagh says he needs to get his head down and zip it. Otherwise, he'll be the next Bobby Duncan. And that's you look at go onto the transfer market page and see where Bobby Duncan's career has gone, and it's not great.
It's not nice. No, it's not nice.
No, it's not nice. So we got the teams flying out to Singapore. We got preseason games against Leicester and Bayern Munich. So hopefully we don't get beat 28-0 by Bayern, who just seem to be an absolute juggernaut behemoth of a team in preseason.
Yeah.
Preseason. But just before we get out of here, Kev, because I know everybody likes to talk about transfers this time of year, are you expecting anything next week? Because I kind of am.
I hope so. I'm hoping that the stuff for Fabinho and Henderson is wrapped up. And just get that done and out the door and hope the shit with these dogs gets fucking fixed. Otherwise, go and buy yourself a house in Brazil to put the dogs in and hire people to look after your dogs and go and visit them. Just once you've made your decision that you want to go and you don't want to be with us anymore, off your trot. You're not Steven Gerrard. You're not Luis Suarez. None of you two. None of the two of them are. It's not a case that, you'll be accepted back to the fold because you're world superstars. You ain't. You want it out. You want to go. Go and ask Gini Wijnaldum what the grass is like on the other side. See how that works out for you. They've given great service to the club on the pitch. They've been fantastic. They've won everything. Absolute phenomenal players for us over the length of their contract. But for me, the second you ask to leave, good luck to you in the rest of your career. Happy days on your bikes.
It's hanging with my nomies. I will absolutely not take Fabinho's dogs. I want nothing to do with the dog that can't breathe, let alone any other. No, they're not. Bulldogs, get out of here. Garbage dogs.
They look cute.
Garbage dogs are garbage people. Not a real dog. I'm okay with my corgi. That's fine, but at least it can breathe properly, sort of thing.
Good point. Good point.
I expect the 2 outs to be done, and I would really like to think that within 24 hours of the outs being announced, we got at least one midfield coming in, because we have to have been doing the work behind the scenes, getting something lined up, because we just need the bodies. I got caught into the trap of counting the number of bodies last season, saying we don't need another midfielder, which proved to be wrong. And now I'm looking at the same number. Like, it's not the same numbers. We are desperately short. We need some bodies in. So, I mean, hey, I like this one from Sam Tandy. Thuram gets announced later in the week. Side-eye look. And Salah gets another year extension on his contract to protect his value from Saudi clubs next summer. I'm okay with both of those. I quite like both of those.
I saw a link for Nice that they were looking at a central midfielder from, I can't remember where, but I did see Nice linked with a midfielder today. And I also saw Southampton linked with Chowdhury. So, look, let them get their ducks in a row. Let them see how it goes. But yeah, you'd hope that any new signings are done to go to Singapore, because they need time to bed in. The more time that we wait is less time the Klopp has to work with them. So the sooner we can get this stuff wrapped up, the better.
Yeah, it already feels like any other signings is going to be too late for probably the first 2-3 weeks of the season. Maybe might not even see them into the team until after that stupid September international break, where the teams go away and come back. So it's going to be interesting to see. I'm very looking forward. We got 3 more preseason games before the actual real action starts. We need to figure out who's going to be playing as a 6. I'd like to maybe think that we might see a little bit of McAllister shifting back down to there once Szoboszlai is back into the team. Jones and Elliott are both back, getting up to fitness. Maybe a little bit of Diogo back into action. Maybe see if we get a little double pivot with Trent going back to right full and seeing McAllister playing as that 6, because I think that would be kind of nice.
Look,
yeah, exactly. There's always more coming, and you can always trust on the LFC Daytrippers to be here for you when and if the news breaks. Gav absolutely loves doing impromptu Friday and Saturday shows, so fingers crossed, Liverpool. Here we go. So the show tonight, as always, brought to you by bookmakers.com. If you're into a little bit of the sports gambling, head on over to their website, get all the best odds and yada 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 yada. The most important thing, though, and you'll find it in the show description on YouTube, pinned tweet on all the social media for the LFC Daytrippers, is our charity sponsor, or our charity partner that we have this year, the 12 women from the Dublin GAA Club that are running the Dublin City Marathon in October, raising money for breast cancer awareness. They are getting closer and closer, a couple thousand away from their $20,000 fundraising target, which is a massive, massive target they set. And as is the case with the LFC Daytrippers and raising money for their good causes, always get there in the end. They always get there in the end. So if you're tired of hearing us talking about the ladies running the marathon, head on over to the GoFundMe page, find them, donate a few dollars, get us to the fundraising target, and we can move on to the next one, because we're not going to stop raising money for good causes, because that's what the channel is here for. So please hit the like button on your way out, hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, all those good things. Ah, shit. No, you're supposed to say smash the like button. It's YouTube. Smash the like button. Smash the like button, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for joining us in the comments, as always. This has been the LFC Daytrippers, a little post-Greuther Furth 4-4 preseason full-time Reds warm-up for Kev and I. Thank you, Kev. I've been your host, Matt. We'll see you guys next time.